Dateline, June 15, 2017. A rapidly modernizing country holds its first ever computerized elections. But international hackers infiltrate the Interior Ministry's computers in an attempt to swing the results in favor of one of the candidates and sent a ransomware email threatening to freeze the elections unless they received $100 million. They also try to hack into the personal accounts and emails of the leaders of one of the parties and publish embarrassing details about them. In addition, they hacked into the Interior Ministry's computers in order to swing the results in favor of one of the candidates. The resulting election upset could lead to nationwide riots and even civil war. Luckily, this country was prepared with the highest level of protection, Cyberdome's 360-degree security perimeter. Already in its preliminary stages, Cyberdome's Security Incident Response Team identifies the attacker's footprints and isolates those computers that have been breached. Its cutting-edge forensics team then rapidly analyzes all pertinent data to determine who carried out the attack, where, and why. Within days, police raid 3 homes in a wealthy section of the country's capital and arrest 4 men for the attempted breach of national security. Hack prevented, case closed. Boasting over a decade of cybersecurity experience, Cyberdome's security professionals are experts at providing 24/7 holistic protection for all types of computer networks, whether public, industrial, or financial. In addition to round-the-clock cybersecurity, our cutting-edge CSOC facilities provide top-quality training and instruction for the best in cybersecurity capacity building. Don't wait until it's too late. Contact Cyberdome today and secure your vital computer networks.
Well then, so according to World Economic Forum Global Risk Report 2020, cyber attack ranks first amongst human cost risks. Hello everyone. From the Federal Capital Territory of the most populous Black nation on the planet, I welcome you all to this webinar. Interestingly, today, we shall be co-hosting with one of our strategic partners, a leading security intelligence provider, Insights. I am Chioma Iwagu, Managing Director, Cyberdome Nigeria. And it is my honor to moderate today's webinar. So in a short while, we shall be x-raying how actionable threat intelligence is delivered to organizations regardless of their types and sizes in real time with a view to protect their critical internet assets through the use of an innovative external threat protection solution. And to give insights to today's topic, we have in the house an erudite cybersecurity professional and the Chief Compliance Officer with Insights in the person of Chris Strand. Hello, Chris. Nice to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. So just to acquaint us with a bit of some ground rules or housekeeping. Today's webinar is going to run in 2 streams. First, there's going to be a presentation session followed by a demonstration session. And we'll be delighted to take your questions at the end of both sessions. I crave your indulgence to make use of the Q&A feature on your screens. Additionally, just by way of a sweetener, we shall be giving out some complimentary gifts to participants who are able to stay till the end and also who would make this session very interactive for us. Well said. So we all know that considering the current realities, what we consider protected today or secure may not be secure or become vulnerable tomorrow. And one key weapon of organizations' defense arsenal against cyber attacks is her ability to utilize real-time data. So Cyberdome, like you already know, is a world-class managed security service provider. Our core mandate is in providing bespoke, holistic, end-to-end cyber operations services, such as systemically important critical infrastructure defense, and solutions tailored to the needs of small, medium, and large-scale enterprises within the public and private sector space across Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. Indeed, we have successfully been able to deploy these services and solutions across various industry verticals, such as defense, energy, healthcare, oil and gas, government ministries, agencies, and departments, as well as, of course, the financial sector. In recent time, we've seen that the cyberspace has become weaponized, with cyber attacks increasing exponentially in the sophistication and complexity. And this has brought us to a tipping point as we continually see security operations changing to adapt with current realities. 10 years ago, a couple of decades ago, you would agree with me that having an antivirus, firewall, IDS, IPS was sufficient to amplify your cyber defense. But that's a different story today. And incidentally, a couple of Nigerian institutions, organizations here are still within the first and second generation, at best third generation. Today, we've seen that it's a different ballgame, where we've seen mega cyber attacks launched by countries and sophisticated groups against other countries by way of cyber espionage that tends to threaten the national security as well as the economy. These attacks, we know, are in large scales and are targeted to government and other private organizations, with the increase in vulnerabilities and the high appetite for the use of cloud infrastructure because of the speed and agility. This again has also shown that on this slide, you could see the malware statistics. For me, it speaks exclusively to the audacity of cyber criminals. We've seen the meteoric growth in malware infection over a short period of time. Considering the proliferation of threat actors, new emerging threats, and from the position of strength, I could tell you that average alert per firm per day has risen to astronomical level. This we saw firsthand during of course, the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the EndSARS protests for those of us in Nigeria. Considering the scale and intensity of cyber attacks, we know that it's a daunting effort trying to protect a single file from being infected by a malware. And we know that as the cyber threat landscape continues to expand to include vectors that we don't even know exist, the complexity of protecting one's file against malware infections is enormous. And we can see this vector span from our email, mobile, messaging applications, servers, and a lot more. So trying to protect one file is a huge challenge. You have to be very, very smart, a brainiac or a genius, to have the capabilities of using 416 technologies to just protect one file. And the complexities continue to grow. More interestingly, on this slide, you can see huge companies, numbers of innovative and sophisticated technologies out there. Let's even assume you have the budget. We equally know that technology on its own is insufficient to protect you adequately from cyber attacks. And again, I know for those of you in the financial sector, your mandate is well cut out, and cybersecurity is definitely not one of them. So, to help build resilience and amplify your network and IT infrastructure, Cyberdome has devised a methodology and technique that allows for seamless integration of world-renowned expertise, innovative technologies, and process to strengthen your security posture while equipping your business IT infrastructure with the capability so they can see, prevent, detect, and respond to the most sophisticated and complex cyber attack. How do we reverse this rather unfortunate trend? Well, it goes without saying that enlisting an MSSP, just as Cyberdome, can deliver the required protection and cost optimization through superior protection, cost cutting, world-renowned expertise with the required skills, exposure, and experience, our sophisticated, diverse, and advanced technologies, and our abilities to tailor our services and solutions to align with the overall goals and objectives of your organization. Part of our services and solutions span from professional services, emergency response, our ability to monitor continuously and manage your assets, your critical assets, both on cloud and on-prem, consultancy services, and of course, our Cyber Academy. By the way, Cyberdome is committed to the digital transformation and technological advancement in Nigeria. We've done that through bridging knowledge gap, as well as building capacity and knowledge base for cybersecurity professionals within the country. Again, we have also customized our courses to enable us to tailor them to the needs of our clients. At Cyberdome, we're continuously and constantly training and conducting courses that are taught at various levels. By the way, we're also an EC Council test examination and training center. By the way, EC Council is a world accredited information security and cybersecurity certification program body. So at Cyberdome, we help prepare your staff who are willing to take this exam. We prepare and train them so they can take these exams and come out in flying colors. So you would ask, why do you need to come to Cyberdome? Cyberdome remains a one-stop shop in the cybersecurity value chain. We have a full service solution portfolio that caters to all your security needs. And we have exhibited and shown our capabilities and our ability to work with your team to understand the complexity and the peculiarity of your network and your threat landscape through the use of our sophisticated and innovative technology that is tailored to align with the set goals and objectives of your organization. And these are equally meant to work with your critical assets, which have been prioritized. Again, we're also able to provide mandatory incident report, incident response, alert and monitoring, and also provide you with necessary recommendation for your implementation. Now we look at your investment in cybersecurity and how Cyberdome has been able to reverse I call it the cybersecurity 80-20 rule. From 80% detection and 20% prevention to 20% detection and 80% prevention. The idea is to enable us to be more proactive and stay ahead of the cyber criminals. That is why at Cyberdome, we ensure we keep our processes very flexible and dynamic. So we're continuously and quickly able to adjust with business, with changes in business and technology in line with current realities. So at this point, before we proceed with our strategic partners, I would like to stop here while I allow Chris to address the elephant in the room and to also walk us through how actionable intelligence is being deployed and delivered to organizations, especially those in the financial sector, in real time to keep our organization out of the list, out of the breach list of cyber criminals? Chris, the floor is all yours for now.
That's great. Thanks so much. Is my slide present? Oh, no problem. Okay, here we go. Let me just share with all of you. I just need slide sharing. If somebody could grant me that, and we can get going with the deck.
Okay, I think you can.
Perfect. You got it. Here we go. Wonderful. Thanks so much for that. Great introduction. And thanks for, again, thanks for having us today. And I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or so going through a number of things, introducing you to Insights and our partnership with Cyberdome and how we help address. I love how you put it, address the elephant in the room. There's many that I'm going to talk about today, but basically understand how we can keep your companies off those breach lists, particularly for the financial services sector. So I'm also joined by Jenny Alisevich today, my partner in crime, I suppose, who will take you through a little bit of the product itself and go into the demo and such. And I'll touch on many of these as we walk through the different facets of what of how you can utilize cyber threat intelligence to essentially converge your responsibilities and your necessities that you face in countering cyber threats, as well as protecting your organization from all parts, including any of the regulatory and security assessment responsibilities that you may have. So let's dig into it here. You already know who I am. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but I've been in this industry for quite some time, over 25 years now at this point. And the only thing I wanted to add to this is, my main goal is to try to achieve that confluence or convergence between data security, compliance, and global regulatory privacy mandates. Now that's no small task, but essentially that's sort of the area that I sit within. And this is why I've generally held positions where I work with IT and audit, governance, data protection, and compliance in general. Now this is very relevant to security. And so I've spent the same amount of time in security, in IT security, as I have in compliance and security assessment. So the two go hand in hand, in my opinion. And it's once we achieve that confluence between the two and we can align what we need to do with what we need to protect, I think we're going to reach that confluence eventually. But I've spent the majority of my career working towards that goal. I'm still working towards that goal, as I have done in my experience with Insights. And as you can see there, I've listed Insights, a Rapid7 company. I want to address that too. So that's another elephant in the room that I want to address with you, just so you know how the evolving partnership with Cyberdome in particular has become much stronger. You may have, if you've been watching the press at all or you've looked up Insights, you would notice that we have been acquired by Rapid7. And what it's allowed Insights, and so the first things first, it's business as usual. So Insights is operating as an independent business as a Rapid7 company. So it's nothing but advantage at this point. So essentially the same facets and features of Insights will continue to operate into the future, yet under the banner of Rapid7, which gives Insights a vast exposure and access to a much larger world and a much larger network. So essentially, will be plugged into the vast and massive amounts of accessibility within Rapid7 that will give us and our customers and our partners a much larger breadth of security coverage and intelligence definition to really acquire the goal that Insights has set out, which is to democratize threat intelligence, make it accessible for everyone, and make it usable and contextual to everyone. So that that goal has just been expanded exponentially now with the addition of the accessibility through to Rapid7. So enough on that. Let's get right into our agenda and get moving forward. So we're going to cover a number of things. And again, I said 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So I'm down to about 20 or just under now. So basically, we're going to take a look at what cyber intelligence is and why its relation to the financial systems data, security, cybersecurity trends in particular within our current market. And I'm also going to focus a little bit on particularly on how auditors and security assessors can use cyber intelligence to enhance and add clarity to their audits and assessments towards better outcomes through security assessment. And again, as I mentioned, I've been an IT auditor before. I've worked with a lot of those big players in that space. And I'm a big fan of real data, of working with real contextual data. And I'm going to show some actual cyber threat intelligence examples that I've gathered with Insights technology in the last year and I'll point to the relationship to cybersecurity and financial compliance regulations, as well as where auditors and security assessors, all of us security professionals, will put them into place. So we're going to look at that, as well as we're going to show you how you can uncover your organization's full exposure to exploitable data by looking at something called your digital footprint. I mean, basically that's your presence. I'll define it in shortly here, but what your digital footprint looks out on the clear, deep, and dark web as we move forward. And then last but not least, how we can apply that to measure the risk of our organization. That's what we're trying to do, get our cybersecurity posture and understand what that is. All right, so I'm just going to set the stage a little bit here. I begin with all my presentations with this, but really what I want to look at here, since we're talking about financial data, the financial services industry, cybersecurity in relation to that, and what Insights does, we have to recognize one trend. So since 2003, there's many different agencies that track this type of data. And up until a couple of years ago, we used to just track how many global data records have been stolen. So we would count it if it was been stolen. And almost a year ago, we were just over 14+ billion records. The tides have changed recently because now it's more critical to our organizations if our data is even accessed. So it's paramount that we understand what our digital footprint looks like across cyberspace in order to understand how exposed we are, because we can't fight the fight against threats unless we understand the tools that they already have to conduct campaigns against our organization. So we have to know how exposed we are across cyberspace. So we really need to focus on the second data point here, which is over 36 billion global records have been exposed from the start of 2020 forward to this point. So that's an enormous amount of data, more than was even stolen in all these years of tracking in cybersecurity. And it's just recognizing the fact that a lot of damage can be done just simply by exposing data. So a ransomware attack is a good example of that, because now ransomware attacks aren't just about stealing that data and taking it. I mean, they're using it as ransom. And what they're doing is they're threatening the exposure of that data. So by definition of what ransomware is recognizing this fact. And this has emerged over the last little while. So again, a change of perspective. Now, you already saw this slide, so that's great. And I think that, us in Cyberdome are marching in in tandem here, because I use it a little bit differently, but just, talking about integration and talking about how organizations can achieve confluence in their cybersecurity posture, we need to recognize partnerships as well as integrations. And that as our threatscape is expanding, so too is our security stack or security scape. So the amount of technologies that we need to make sense of and work with, it's paramount that we have solid partnerships and we deal with technologies that really mean something, that can give us context, give us visibility, give us that preemptive view of risk tailored against our core mandates. And it's important to look at that. And any vendor that steps up to the plate and says, look, you're going to press this button and all your questions are going to be answered. We have to keep in mind, and as vendors, it's very infrequently that you'll hear this coming from a vendor, but you need to be able to prove something and integrate properly with these technologies in order to solve your customers' problems. So it's important to recognize that fact. And we at Insights, and of course, Rapid7 realize this as well in our integrations, and that it speaks to our partnerships that we choose to engage with, in particular with the Cyberdome partnership, to look for partners. They have that contextual view of integration and to present and provide the entire package. So the last piece that I wanted to talk about is that I mentioned responsibilities. Now, there are 1,000,001, and I had an update on here with the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, which anyone who is doing business in Nigeria would have to comply with, essentially. But it speaks to the idea that data privacy, the way we use data and the way we work with data is highly regulated. But more importantly, cybersecurity mechanisms are being introduced to make sure that we're protecting that data. And that falls back directly to us as professionals, security professionals, in our cybersecurity programs. So not only do we need to worry about protecting ourselves against those threats and counteracting those threats, but we need to make sure that we're protecting that data and that we can prove that we're protecting that data, because at a certain point in time, maybe hopefully not within a breach, but we're going to be asked to be able to prove that we can protect the data that we're responsible for protecting. Okay, so let's get right into this. So I talk about cyber threat intelligence. The term is thrown around loosely, and I wanted to just spend a couple seconds just defining what cyber threat intelligence is, and then how we use it. And then we're going to go into some of our examples. So basically, the very basic level definition is cyber threat intelligence. It provides us an effective way to analyze information about certain things. Well, what is that? What we're looking at is we're collecting information, we're analyzing the adversary's intent, capabilities, and opportunities of these adversaries and bad actors out across cyberspace, so that we can understand and take measures to defend against the wide range of cybersecurity threats that they're going to campaign and create that target us. Now, how is cyber threat intelligence achieving that? Well, it's doing this by collecting data all around the web. In our case, it's the clear, deep, and dark web. There's different areas across cyberspace, excuse me, that we need to collect from. Now, it's collecting it from specific areas, and this is things like social media, app stores, leaked databases, chat channels, dark web forums, black markets, etc. And then what we do is we direct that to us as security professionals. So we take that targeted threat actor research and we do something with it. Now, sometimes that involves running machine learning algorithms against that, or doing human analysis and running penetration tests to see how the results of that would happen. So we actually do something with that data. Now, the result of this exercise then is actionable intelligence on those various attack indicators, the data leakage, the phishing, the brand impersonation, and the fraud. And again, the types of tactics and vectors go on and on. But we have actionable intelligence, meaning we can take the step to do something about it and make a decision. Now, a bonus of cyber threat intelligence is it can also provide answers in other areas. And like I was hinting on earlier, it can be harnessed to help us obtain clarity on our security policies as well as understand and measure our cybersecurity risk or the risk to our security controls that would lastly help alleviate some of the strains of measuring our organization security and compliance programs and any regulations that we're held up against. So the idea is let's do more with less with this cyber threat intelligence. Now, how we achieve this is by many ways. Now, I'm going to introduce you to how I model and map cyber threat intelligence. And what I do is map it back to security controls. I mentioned proving our security controls, and then how that can translate to that enrichment of an organization's overall assessment process. Now, to understand cyber threat intelligence in a meaningful way and have it do something for you, and obtain that enrichment then to the security process, we can analyze the ecosystem, how attacks are carried out. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen charts like this if you use any common frameworks, et cetera. So when it comes to threat intelligence, to enrich those security controls, we would model ourselves against what's called the attack chain. And that's why I was saying everyone has probably seen the cybersecurity attack chain, the exploit chain, the ecosystem. It goes by many different names. So the reason we do this is we need to understand and analyze the attacker exploit cycle. And this is a simple illustration of it. And I used a very typical data exploit, some very similar to what would happen during ransomware. And what I did is I paired each stage with the individual security controls needed to counter and deal with that exploit. So basically, here it's the premise here is at each stage of the cycle, attackers will use specific techniques to move forward, tactics and techniques to move forward to the next stage. Well, if we can understand better that those techniques and tactics that are used by cyber crime groups, then we can mirror and counter the attack, essentially breaking the kill chain. Now, to get real return on investment of that and understand where cyber threat intelligence plays, we can take the important step of moving further up the exploit chain, way before the attacker even starts the exploit, maybe before the exploit is even created. So for this, we take advantage of the actions and events then that happen during the pre-exploit stage. And that's what I've illustrated here. So contextual threat intelligence then will enable us to essentially travel through time. If anyone wants to time travel, here's your chance. So it enables us to essentially compile and pattern against the types of threats that may be targeting our businesses. So based on your exposure, as I was mentioning, your exposure across the clear, deep, and dark web, what's out there on your organization, you can then take the appropriate actions and move further up the kill chain and mirror or counter the techniques that the adversary is using when they're performing that exploratory stage. So essentially, what you're doing is you're countering or you're stopping the pre-exploit activity. So you're taking preemptive measures to defend your systems against imminent attacks that could be used to exploit your defenses, and then of course disrupt your business and hopefully not a full stage exploit or ransomware attack. So again, you're basically traveling through time here and you're positioning your organization to take advantage of that precognitive look or that preemptive view of your data that is, again, counter possible bad events before they even happen, and hopefully reduce your liability further against those targeted attacks. So once we align with any of these security control frameworks, we need then to have a way to collect and compartmentalize all that intelligence and make it actionable. So on top of shifting our analysis earlier in that adversary attack chain, we want to use cyber threat intelligence to further help us generate context to those security threats. And then through further analysis, again, be it manual or automated, we can then hopefully prioritize those gaps within all the corners of our IT estate and accelerate our response and our remediation then to those targeted attacks as they increase. So I want to take a step and look at some market use cases here of how we can apply cyber threat intelligence. And we're going to look at some real examples. I pulled some real examples from, these are actual examples that have happened. And the first thing I'm going to look at is how you can discover and quickly quantify and qualify your requirement gaps. And this is one of the first things we would do when we're assessing our systems against security. So we're going to look at how we can use cyber threat intelligence to prioritize those gaps or our vulnerabilities and help us find those ones that could possibly fall through the cracks. Now, I'm showing you this, and this slide's actually getting pretty old, but it's still a problem. Now, when talking about security gaps, one of the things this is just an example. I'm showing you a list of long since now expired operating systems that have gone end of life. But again, provide a really interesting example for financial systems that continue to threaten data. And if we fail to preemptively recognize the gaps or the vulnerabilities that, let's say, end-of-life systems are causing across our system, across our infrastructure and our enterprise, then we're leaving ourselves exposed to those preemptive attacks, because those preemptive attacks are often will utilize the vulnerabilities that are posed by systems that have gone out of support. And again, I'm not picking on Windows here by any stretch, but they're good examples that are still causing problems. And the only reason that I picked these 3 operating systems that went end of life long since now, over a year and a half ago, is simply because they're still in widespread use throughout the world, and particularly in the financial services sector. So attack groups, again, are going to have been using and still use existing historic attacks. They'll use old attacks that have worked on these vulnerabilities. They often call these negative zero-day vulnerabilities because they're turning up again against a common vulnerability that now is an exploit vector. So again, if we don't have that preemptive information to understand in advance how we can proactively protect our systems by using cyber threat intelligence, then it makes it a lot harder for us to counter situations like operating with systems business as usual when they can never, ever be patched against those vulnerabilities. So I want to talk about vulnerabilities a little bit more, and I'm giving you more old data. So I hope you don't walk away from this and say, wow, he just gave us a whole bunch of old data. The thing is, it's still very relevant. Now, this is from the Verizon Payment Security Report. And when you consider how vulnerabilities can increase our risk, this is a metric that is still very relevant. And it turned up in the next version of, I'm going to update this in the 2020 Verizon Payment Security Report. Now, you might ask yourself, why am I using Verizon Payment Security Report? Because doesn't that only apply to credit cards and the payment card industry data security standard, et cetera? Well, yes, it does. But it's a great baseline to talk about the need to recognize gaps and prioritize our vulnerabilities properly. So again, this is close to home for any sector, even if you're not held against the payment card industry data security standard. Because when you consider the protection of data, be it healthcare, PHI data, of course, financial data in our case, or personal PII, which banks and financial institutions are responsible to protect. This is the results of this report can help us improve the mechanisms that we have in place to ensure that our data is kept secure. So what it illustrates is essentially that the failure to rank the risk and prioritize properly, which, by the way, is a responsibility it's a requirement in the PCI DSS. And this was the leading cause of data breaches for the PCI entities that were investigated in this report. And again, the same types of data appeared again in the next report for 2020. So it's illustrating that we really need to improve the way that we identify and prioritize our threats across our systems so that any of those creeping vulnerabilities can't get into the mix and cause problems for us. So as a best practice, we can use cyber threat intelligence during that threat detection and analysis phase to enhance our coverage of that part of the exploit chain that we look at within our infrastructure to catch these outlying vulnerabilities that may creep into our systems and then cause problems. So here's a quick example of that I wanted to provide for you. Again, Jenny is going to walk into the demo, so you're probably going to see more of this information, but the idea here is this is a concrete example of rating and prioritizing vulnerabilities. And I pulled this up for you, and I want to illustrate a couple of things as you think about that that metric that I just showed you from the report. So here I'm using collected threat intelligence to essentially enrich and filter out individual security threats that could have that, a significant underlying threat intelligence indicator and cause problem as a vulnerability later to my organization. So you can see here a critical and threatening vulnerability that was actually rated quite low on the prioritization scale. It had a CVSS score of 3.4. Normally, when we scan for vulnerabilities and look at them, we're going to look at the CVSS score. Now, that's not going to help us if we don't know the underlying threat intelligence, i.e. we don't have that preemptive intelligence to tell us that this vulnerability actually could be much more important to us and cause much more damage. So when I did my normal scan, that's what I got. If I was scanning this with PCI DSS, it would be marked as a low vulnerability and we would go about our way. But if you look at the CVE score breakdown that's provided when we throw threat intelligence into the mix and we contextualize that, we can see it's got tons of mentions. It has a score of 100. So now it's something that we definitely want to pay attention to. And if I look into this a little bit more, I can see that, wow, this has a current exploit associated with it that's active, that's targeting industries such as mine. So now I have that preemptive knowledge to be able to address this and take more of a preemptive measure about that. And in terms of doing a sanity check, while I'm collecting that cyber threat intelligence, I have a preemptive view, so I can look across the board and find areas where other vulnerabilities that, again, may not appear in my general scans could cause havoc across my enterprise. So I'm going to be able to catch those outliers and take the measures necessary to make sure that I'm not possibly violating a compliance regulation I'm responsible for, but more importantly, the reason I'm violating that particular compliance regulation is because I've got a security control that is not up to par, and I need to be able to catch that and pull that out. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about before I pass it over is the need to move to the next phase here is when assessing those possible vulnerabilities. Another important security measure is to understand our risks from a digital footprint. Now, I mentioned the digital footprint before. So just exactly what is that? Well, it's, there's no other way of putting it, but it's digital breadcrumbs that we spread around the clear, deep, and dark web. So it's our presence across the clear, deep, and dark web. The unfortunate side of that is many organizations don't understand how large and considerable and extensive their digital footprint is throughout cyberspace. Now, that includes stuff like, maybe a hack to some exploited data that's been stolen and now is being sold on the dark web. We don't often see that. We don't even often know about that. So we're not able to take the preemptive measures to protect ourselves against that data that might be out there on that. So that's what's involved in finding our digital footprint, understanding it, but then also taking action on it. So if we know what's out there, we can find, respond, and remediate any instances of that critical data before it's sold or traded, or it's used in a campaign against us to construct an extensive attack. Now, here's an example. This was a real example. We call these sectorial alerts, but essentially, this is the type of data that we see. And it's an example of a related threat that could cause financial risk to our organization. And in this case, it's company credit cards associated with the bank that have been stolen. Now, due to the nature of this, I'm on the hook here to not only protect it and find it and make sure that it's not stolen, but also make sure that it's addressed here, since it has been stolen by many different regulations, PII regulations, data protection regulations, including, I've mentioned PCI DSS. I like to mention that one because, again, data security standards, talking about securing data and ensuring our security controls are up to par. So we would be in violation of all of these with this data out there lingering out on the dark web if we didn't know about it. Now we've uncovered the presence of it, so we can take the necessary action of addressing it and fixing the problem. So I wanted to provide you with a real example of that. So, did some sectorial searches of this, and this is a common type of problem that we will see when that data is discovered. And I wanted to give you a local, close to home example. But for all organizations, there's tons of this data out there. Now, it might not be particularly dangerous to the organization, or it might not cause havoc. We just don't know. And that's part of the process here is once we understand what that digital footprint looks like and we can trace that and put that together, and we can find out that we've been the victim of a particular campaign that's targeting financial services organizations and trying to expose that data. If we never know about that, if we don't understand what our digital footprint is, then we can't take the measures and the actions in order to protect ourselves from that. Now, how do we find this intelligence, or how do we basically target your digital footprint? And again, I promised that Jenny is going to focus a little more on the demo piece of it to walk you through this. But the idea here, I wanted to pull this one up to show you that we can basically also target the type of intelligence we're looking for. And the idea here is we can set up a pattern to look for specific vectors associated with intelligence based on what your organization looks like. And this is really critical and important to being able to get the full context of your digital footprint and then understand how to take that measure. So the idea here is we don't just open up open up a huge door and just let all of this stuff come in. We actually target what we're going to look for so that you can take the right measures. And how we alert upon these threats, well, Jenny's going to get into that, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that here because I want to give you adequate time to be able to understand that and look at that from a demo perspective. And one last thing that I wanted to capture here and talk about is the idea of a policy, because your cybersecurity policy is the DNA of how your organization protects that core data. And we can match that to the policy in order to make sure that we're providing relevant data. Because as you collect data on your digital footprint, of course, you want to make sure that it pertains and is relevant to you so that you can take the appropriate measures and keep on top of the cybersecurity threat. So last example I want to show you was, this is another cyber threat intelligence example of how preemptive view of your threats using your digital footprint can identify those targeted attacks against your organization in the future that might be happening. So this is an example of stuff, this is activity, this is on dark web forums and such, of two things, exploit groups using their data, sharing their data, looking for, in this case, they were looking for POS systems attacks, very common out there on the dark web. A lot of information for it, but they're basically saying, hey, does anybody have anything on this? Because I'm looking at doing a new type of exploit. And this is the type of activity that's happening in that pre-exploit phase that usually we have no knowledge of. And then they go as far as actually sharing tutorials on how to create this and assemble those campaigns. So, a lot of valuable data out there, a lot of activity out there. So if you know that this activity is happening, then not only do you know that the activity is happening across your sector, you may be able to spot when this activity is happening against core system architecture that you have. Hence, you want to set up your policy to be able to target that specific data. So the very last piece of the puzzle here is in the reporting, how you actually look at your cybersecurity posture across your enterprise. And this is using protecting your financial data with cyber threat intelligence to enhance the risk assessment process for the organization. So basically getting that preemptive high-level view compared and aligned with all the different regulations and responsibilities that you have to measure your cybersecurity presence, and then report that out in a conclusive view for the organization to show that you can achieve the passing grade for where your organization should be at that point in time for its cybersecurity posture. So utilizing that cyber threat intelligence in terms of the reporting to wrap that together and give that high level view. And then, extending your visibility basically into three sections here. So basically what we've covered is how you can utilize the cyber threat intelligence and some of the facilities that are provided within Insights to accelerate your risk assessment in three different ways, essentially. So extend your visibility way beyond your perimeter, right? So out into cyberspace where things are just starting to happen before they're even an exploit. And then give you a sense of what your real risk is to your security policy. And that helps you zone in on those critical security vulnerabilities and other gaps that are going to cause the most negative impact to your business. So you can be able to sort those out, and that'll enable you to run a security assessment utilizing cyber threat intelligence and alleviate some of the stress on the resources across your organization. Because as we all know, in this day and age, resources are stressed beyond belief, and the resources are stretched thin, and often they're limited. So we need to do more with less. We need to avoid reinventing the wheel. So right, when we align with cyber threat intelligence, we solve one problem. Let's make sure that we can also compare that out to make sure that we're meeting our regulatory responsibilities, that we're aligning with those global privacy laws and regulations, because those are often things that can come back on us as well. And as I said at the very beginning, with ransomware attacks today, it's often the threat of exposure just against a national data privacy legislation that is the biggest reason why we would fear the exposure of that organization. This is part of the exploit. As I said, they don't necessarily have to steal the data anymore. They just need to encrypt it and hold it for ransomware. And this is the motivation that often companies will have to pay, because the penalties of exposure of that data is often much more dangerous to our organization than if the data was just stolen and used nefariously somewhere. Of course, that's going to do damage, but sometimes, at a regulatory level, at a national level, this could do damage to our organization far above and beyond what would happen if we have to just replace somebody's core record. Not that that's not important, but the fact that we lost that record could be much more critical to our organization and cause extensive damage. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Genia now. I'm going to pass back the stop the share, and hopefully he can share his screen and allow him to take you through a few views of the product itself in the form of a demo.
Hi, so hello everyone. Just 1 second. Hello everyone. As the guys here before already introduced me, my name is Genia Elisevich. I'm a senior sales engineer at Insights. And what we're going to see right now is going to be a demo of our platform. Just kind host, can you please unlock the screen sharing option for me, as it is disabled? Just wait for it to happen. Chris or Anita, can you unlock the screen sharing?
Just in a bit. In a bit, you'll get us started.
All right. Right, so the screen sharing will happen in a second. So as Chris already
Yeah, it's done already.
Yeah.
You may proceed.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. All right, so I hope everybody sees my screen. All right, so great. So as Chris already explained, and our platform is a SaaS cloud-based system, and it's accessible from your browser from around the world. Right, what you see before your eyes right now is the dashboard, and it's the main screen of the platform. The platform consists from many modules, but today we will focus on our flagship product, the Threat Command, and we will talk a bit later about the VRA, our Vulnerability Risk Analyzer. Okay, so here on the main screen, you can see that we have 6 categories of alerts from the clear web and from the dark web. While from each source, we collect these different threats. And the alerts are 6 categories. The attack indication that basically will show you different chatter in the dark web and different from different sources for like social media and websites. The data leakage, this will present you leaks of confidential data and credential leaks. Phishing, self-explanatory. This will show you phishing domains and phishing websites that our platform collected. The brand security that will alert for fake social media pages and fake applications or applications on pirate stores. The exploitable data that this alert will show you when your external facing assets are vulnerable to misconfiguration or different one-day patched vulnerabilities, and the VIP protection alert will show you if the system have found any fake VIP profiles or their email misused around the web. And again, we collect these threats from the clear web and the dark web, all right? But before the collection happens, we do need to assemble your assets, and Chris talked about it before. So right here on the left pane, we go to assets, and when you purchase our system, before we begin the collection process, we need you to fill the assets that comprise your organization's external digital footprint. And it can be a company name, a domain, different mobile applications, login pages to your bank or your service, external IP addresses, BIN numbers, Swift codes. And with the BIN numbers, we will be able to detect stolen or leaked credit cards of your customers, so you will be able to alert them and block it. And Swift codes, so we will be able to monitor rogue transactions in the dark web. All right. This is some basic examples. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the Q&A, and in the end of the session, we will answer them all. All right, so after entering all those relevant assets to your organization, the system, the platform will start the collection process, and when we detect potential threats, the system will go through different decision parameters, and then it will alert you, and then it will alert you for them. Okay, so we'll go right now through few kind of alerts that Chris spoke about before, right? So the first one, I think that's a really interesting one, is an alert from the dark web that our platform detected a Chinese financial institution got hacked, and a database from there got leaked with a lot of different information. Unfortunately, it's in Chinese, and I know only Russian, Hebrew, and English, so I cannot read what this database contains. But our system do translates it, and as we can see in the next screen, I can assume this is the personal information of either employees or customers of this financial institution. So we found this threat in the dark web, in the black market, and the most interesting thing in this case that we not only show you the alert, we also offer you the ability to purchase it. Okay, so one of the main features of the system is the Ask the Analyst feature. And if, for example, bad luck happened and your financial organization got hacked and database got leaked, and you get this alert, or your partners, you can go to the Ask the Analyst feature and tell him, hey, listen, we want to contact the seller and see what is for sale there. And in some cases, you also are even can buy the information. And we had cases that we bought these databases exclusively. So the customer asked us to, listen, I want to buy this database and I want it out of the dark web. So we will be the exclusive only buyer, and no one else will be able to buy it. Our analysts have very sophisticated and evolved avatars in the dark web. with very high level of confidence. So we were able to take them out and make sure no one else will be able to buy it. Okay, but also let's talk a bit about the what you see accept the information. So you can see here right here the in the title the name of the alert, when it was created and when it was posted on the dark web. Also, you can see the source URL, basic description, recommendation as what we at Insights recommend you to do when you get this alert. And that's basically it. You also, if you need to, if you want to share this alert with someone from your organization, from the analyst team or the SOC or the information security team, you'll be able to click right here on the share alert and send it to whoever you want. So this was the first alert that we've seen. The next one is an alert again from the dark web, and what we see here, we can read on the title. There is a bot server that have customer information, that is credentials, offered for sale. Now, what it means? When we do the basic authentication from our computer to any kind of services, and we enter our username and password, a token, authentication token, is created and saved in the browser. Another name for that is a cookie. All right. These cookies may be stolen by different kind of malware and botnets, and then later on, they are uploaded for sale on some black markets in the dark web. Okay. Now, I don't know if you heard, but some time ago, a big U.S. company were hacked. And all the data were stolen, and the hack began from a leaked authentication token to one of their instant messaging application that they use inside their organization, and this token was bought for $10. Okay, so the whole organization were hacked because of someone bought an authentication token for $10. So we, in that case, we find this token and we alert you that they are for sale, and of course, again, you may buy them and later on change the username and password for this leaked customer or employee, and therefore the token will be changed and not relevant anymore. That's that. Let's see. Let's go to the credit cards. We spoke in the asset list. I'll show you that as part of our asset list, we encourage you to enter your BIN numbers as Swift codes. All right. So the BIN numbers are used just for that. We crawl the clear deep and the dark web, and we search for these specific BIN numbers. And if we find credit cards that got leaked or stolen and are for sale, we present you with this information and we show you the source from which where we found these credit cards. Also with partial information that we extract from the website, and also we give you the ability to buy the information and block the credit cards and alert your customers. All right, but even without buying the stolen credit cards, you are able to see here some partial information that may help you to mitigate this threat as well without buying the information itself. All right, so as you can see, we got multiple examples here for this leaked credential, for this leaked credit cards. So for an example, we can see here Bank of America and the branch. See another one. Yeah, again, here we see a bit more of the address. I can tell you from personal experience, we had a demonstration POCs with the customers, and a few times they got enough information from the evidence screen in order to alert the customer and block his credit card. So that helps a lot as well. What else? automated. Do you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I were disconnected. Please tell me where, in which part I got disconnected.
You were speaking to the credit cards with illustrations.
Okay, okay. So I'll get back to that. Okay. So let me share the screen again. Please excuse me. All right. So yeah, so the bin numbers, the asset list is the way we find leaked credit cards. Basically, based on that information, you will be able to alert your customers and block and change their credit card numbers. And that helps a lot to many of our customers. Now, more than that, we have dedicated alert analyst for each of our customers that will be able to go to different closed Telegram channels and groups and search for hacking tools that target different banks or financial services. For example, here we see I guess it's Spanish again. I don't know this language, but I can assume someone tried to sell a hacking kit for some bank in a closed Telegram group, and our analyst found it and alerted our customer. Okay, that's that. Another one, a phishing kit. Now, what is a phishing kit? I'll backtrack a little bit. A phishing kit is basically a snapshot of the login screen of your website for your customer. So when a customer wants to log in into your website, he goes to the login screen, fills the username and password, and logs in. What a lot of hacking groups do, they snapshot this login screen, and later on they are able to replicate it one-to-one, and basically phish your customers for their username and password, and sometimes even credit card numbers, by creating fake websites that are similar one-to-one to your login page. Okay, we are able to find not only these phishing websites, but the phishing kits for sale as well. So on this example, we found a phishing kit that were for sale on one of our customers, and we alerted the customer, and he were able to issue a takedown request. Now, in Insight, we not only want to supply you an intelligence so you will be able to know what happens, we want you to be able to act upon it as well, because intelligence without the ability to do something about it is pretty much useless. So and we don't want you also to go to another vendor to seek remediations. Okay, with one click of a button, maybe two sometimes, you will be able to issue a takedown request to the host of the website and to the domain registrar. The platform will do a full automatic process collecting the evidence and who is domain registrar, and building a very detailed report, and we'll send it again to the domain registrar or the hosting service, and in a matter of hours to days, we'll take the website down and therefore remediate the threat. And that's basically what we always want to do. We want to get intelligence and remediate it. That's the perfect combination of it. All right. We will continue now to the vulnerability risk analyzer. and that is the screen. You've seen it in the screenshots in Chris's presentation. Basically, we all know the pain. we all know the pain of vulnerability patching, all right? This tool will be able to help you to prioritize critical vulnerability patching by relying on the technologies inside your asset list. So I didn't mention it before, but in the asset list, you are able to enter the technologies, the software that you use inside your organization. And based on that, the vulnerability risk analyzer will be able to alert you when vulnerabilities become public, and basically help you to better understand what you need to patch. Yeah. So as you can see, we have a different scoring techniques here. So there are vulnerabilities that are not really in high priority, or they are not super used, or do not grant some privilege escalation or remote code execution abilities. So they are not as important to install. But there are others. For example, this Windows 10 vulnerability that that actually were published like a week or two ago. What we see right here is general information: Windows print spooler remote code execution vulnerability. Actually, if you have anything to patch in your organization, better do this one in the beginning. We see mentions over time. So we see that over time there were no mentions regarding this type of vulnerabilities, and in July the chatter is huge. We see on what we based our score. Okay, so as we see, there are a lot of mentions in the clear and the deep and the dark web, in hacking forums. Basically, it's the most talked vulnerability at the moment. Next, we got intelligence information, and most of the vulnerability scanners do not give you that, okay? Because here we are able not to only show you that all right, hey, look, there's a vulnerability, please patch it. Here we'll be able to look at the intelligence. So what are people in the social media talking about regarding this vulnerability? What is published in the PACE sites, hacking forums, and most importantly, exploits. If someone uploaded an active exploit, he made a proof of concept from this vulnerability, he took the vulnerability, wrote an exploit to it, and published on GitHub, you will be able to find it and basically go download it, play with it, and maybe even after patching it, you will be able to see by yourself that it is not vulnerable anymore. Yeah, if you have vulnerability scanners inside your organization, you can also integrate them with our platform, and you will see another tab right here that will basically say to you which machines are vulnerable to the vulnerability that you are watching at the moment. That was the VRA. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Genia. It's been quite an insightful session. So quickly, at this point, we'd like to take questions and from the audience. So please endeavor, like I said before, to make use of your Q&A features on your screen, and we'll be willing to take your questions. So the first question we have, it's the MD mentioned a lot on threats. What are the media being used? Email only, please specify. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to take this question. I don't know if Chris, you'd like to speak to it, but for us at Cyberdome, we use ticketing method.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's Chris here. We have a number of options available. So, I mean, you could use email as a forum of sending that, or you could integrate with a ticketing system. So the options are plenty, depending on what your security systems demand. So that's the best way I can answer that. In other words, you have a variety of options, or if simple email is good enough, then we could send the alert out via that direction.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think we have another question. Someone would like to know what the pricing model is, if it's annual or it is monthly or quarterly. Chris?
It's based on a subscription model. So normally the pricing is structured based on a subscription. So it would be a yearly just a subscription type of model, very typical.
Okay, how does Insights as a tool manage compliance in line with adhering to regulatory requirements?
Well, that's a great question. I could do another entire presentation on that one, but essentially it involves, when we talked about aligning with various compliance regulations and such, it aligns with compliance in the way that it collects the core intelligence. Now, I know that doesn't really answer the question, but the more important side of that is when we talked about targeting specific intelligence that's important to you. So what Insights can do is it can target specific intelligence that relates to your sector and your regulation. So we can look for financial data, and then we can also tag that data and look for core data that aligns with, let's say, a compliance requirement that you have to adhere with. I talked a lot about the PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. And that's typically, that's a good example of how we can look for, let's say, credit card data and find core data that relates to your responsibilities under that compliance regulation. And I mean, it's much more extensive than that, but there's this very strong facility to set up and collect targeted intelligence that will tell you something about your compliance posture as well as your security controls. But that's how we do it. It's the same way as that we search and target specific types of intelligence. We can then specifically target certain patterns that are relative to a compliance regulation that you would have to adhere to.
Okay, up to the next one. Thank you, Chris, for that. So another attendee would like to know how Insights platform is able to manage false positive or minimize false positive.
Right, so I will answer that one with your permission. So there are multiple factors and mechanisms in order to minimize false positives in our platform, all right? Well, the first one is the decision parameters and decision mechanisms that I spoke about it before. For each threat and for each threat that is collected, the system have different decision parameters that it looks on. For example, for phishing websites, it looks when it was created, who did register the domain, what's on the website. So if the website is empty and there's nothing on it, probably there is something fishy about it. That's for phishing. For example, for credentials, we're able to integrate with Active Directory and make sure it suits the password policy and is up to date. That's the first one. And those were just a few examples. The second one is the alert profiler. So again, for each alert type, you are able to configure it based on your needs, and if there are more false positive that there should be, again, we will be able to go look at it and configure it for your needs. All right, and the last one is the analyst, and basically there is a constant analyst work on each of our customers. So if the analyst sees an alert that is not relevant or false positive, he will close it.
Okay, clear enough. So from one of the attendees, Tajuddin, he would like to know what the significant difference is between clean web and dark web. And he also would like to know if customers are encouraged to sit on the dark web as you do to identify possible threats to their systems and database.
Jenny, do you want to take that?
Pardon?
Yeah, can you please repeat the second half of the question?
Okay, he would want to know if clients or customers are allowed to sit on the dark web, I guess the dark web forum, just as you do, to identify the threats on their own that are being threatened, that being launched on their systems and database. He would like to know if, excuse me, clients could sit in the dark web as well to protect their systems and database, just like you do.
Yeah. So if we would encourage our customers to sit in the dark web as we do, our customers will not need our platform and our services. So of course not. We would constantly develop our services and always update the algorithms in order for our customers not to be on the dark web. We collect the information from the ClearDeep and the dark web. Now, the main difference is the clear web is much more accessible. Okay, for example, the forums in the clear web, most of the times, in order to register to this, for example, hacking forums, you don't need any special. You don't need to meet any special conditions. But in order to subscribe or sign up to a professional hacking forum in the dark web, one of our top analysts needed to provide a snippet of a vulnerability exploit that he wrote by himself. So the standards on the clear and the dark web are very different. So the dark web is much less accessible for ordinary people like me, all right, and not a top security researcher. So these are the main differences between these two domains. Okay, was it clear enough? You need any more clarifications? I'll be happy to.
Okay, just to add to what you said, Tajuddin, you also require a special tool to also be able to access the dark web forum, not just like you have in the cloud web. So like Daniel has said, Chris has said, you feel free to get in touch with us so that we can clarify you on that. Now, another question. Another attendee would like to know if organizations in the cloud, does the organization need to work with you in collaboration with other cloud providers? I guess in a nutshell, he wants to know if your solution is vendor agnostic.
Yeah, we do offer different kind of integrations with two different vendors, but in case we do not have an official integration with any of the providers or vendors you work with, we do offer a REST API, basically that with the help of the customer success manager that will help you with the onboarding and all of those stuff, you will be able to craft the right API query and code, and will be able to integrate it with any vendor. That, of course, again, supports REST API.
Thank you. I would take the last two questions together. And the first is, how does Insights protect remote workforce? And secondly, what are the source of intelligence for Insights?
Okay, so it's a bit I'll try to answer that the question about the remote workforce. So again, we collect intelligence, okay, and we had this example before. We talked about botnets, okay. So for example, your employee works from home from his personal computer or from any location in the world. And he downloaded the file or got a phishing email and he opened it, and some not a ransomware, not very dangerous malware infected his computer and just stole all his authentication tokens to all of your organization's services, and afterwards offered it online for sale. Okay, so we will be able to alert you on that specific scenario when your employees' credentials got stolen. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's Genia. I think that would be all for now. And thank you very much, everyone who has made it out to join in this webinar. We've come to the top of the hour, and I would like to say, let us continue to extend this conversation beyond this webinar. And once again, at Cyberdome, our core mandate is ultimately to migrate our clients from being cyber praise to being threat hunters. Like we said in the beginning, the first three companies who are into organizations that are interested in this solution could reach us with the information on the screen, and we'll be able to send you intelligence on your organization. This is going to be more like pro bono, just for the first three organizations that indicate interest. And additionally, we're going to send also some gift items to those who have participated in this webinar at the end of this webinar. Thank you once again. I would encourage us to visit our website as well as follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And once again, we've come to the end of this session. We look forward to hosting you in the nearest future. And on this note, I would want to say enjoy the rest of your evening and have a splendid night rest. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.